This is Module 3 in the Smart Sales System training program. In the previous module, we talked about consultative selling. In this module, we're going to show you how to create your sales message. Everything that we're discussing in this training video aligns with chapters 4 through 9 in the Smart Sales System book. Now, we actually provide a step-by-step process that you can go through to brainstorm all the key things to communicate. And each of these steps is interconnected, building off of the step before. And that will make more sense here in a minute. But what that structure does is not only does it make it easier for you to brainstorm and create your sales message, but this process actually drives you to creating the most optimum and attention-grabbing sales message for what you sell. And the process starts with brainstorming key details about the product or service that you sell. And by the way, throughout the Smart Sales System, we use the term product a lot. And when we say product, we are just referring to what it is that you sell. And that may be a physical product. It could be a service. Whether you sell a product or a service, everything that we discuss in the Smart Sales System is exactly the same. So when you start this process for what you sell, you may be very clear on what product you need to create your sales message for. But whether that's the case or not, we recommend brainstorming the different products or services you sell to make a list, either to identify what product to use for this sales message or to create a plan for the different sales messages that you should create. And if you sell 3 products, your list may look something like this. We sell product A, product B, and product C. But what I want to show you is that if you sell these 3 products, you actually sell 4 products because you also sell product ABC, which is the grouping or bundling of all the different things you sell. And we actually refer to this informally as your everything product. It's the product that you sell that basically includes everything. Now, to demonstrate this sales message brainstorming process, I'm actually going to go through this and create a sales message for a product so that you can see how this works. So if I were to brainstorm the products that I sell, I may come up with a list like this. We sell a software application called SalesScripter. We sell sales training. We sell sales consulting and coaching. But I also have an everything product, and that's actually the Smart Sales System. The Smart Sales System includes those 3 things and everything else that we sell. So my everything product is the Smart Sales System. And that's the product that I'm going to create a sales message for to demonstrate this process for you. Once you identify the product for your sales message, brainstorm the key features for that product. And that might seem easier or make more sense if you sell a physical product. But even if you sell a service, think about the different things that you'll do for your client. And one way that I recommend you kind of view this is to view what you sell as being a box. And when your customer or client purchases from you, try to think of everything that's in the box, all the different things they'll get or all the different things you'll do for them. And so if someone purchases the Smart Sales System, they'll get a web-based script generator, sales script library, role-play software, CRM and email automation, sales training program, consulting and coaching. Now, at this point, I recommend you go one step further and try to think about how what you sell is different from your competitor. And this is important because if your product or service is different in some sort of way, we want to get that in your sales message so that you are sure to communicate that again and again when you're talking with prospects. So some ways that we're different: the only sales tool that helps with what to say, true consultative selling approach, and the only AI-driven sales role-play software. Now, for some of you, thinking about how you're different might be very clear and easy. For others, this may be difficult, especially if you sell more of a Me Too product or service that is exactly the same as the competition. So if this is difficult, either try to get creative and maybe think of ways that you're different that are outside of your product or service. It could be the way you do business or your pricing or contract or your customer service. But if you can't think of any differentiation, no problem at all. You can skip that step. And the next step in the process is to think about who is the target audience for this sales message, or who is the audience that we're going to be communicating with when we're selling and prospecting and using this sales message. Now, if you sell B2B, there's a few different types of target audiences that you might want to focus on and target. For this training module and this demonstration, we're actually going to select the target audience of sales trainers. Now, this is a very specific title and a very specific department, and we've selected that because this is going to be a very good demonstration for you of the power of this step. And you'll see very clearly as we go through this process of how our decision here takes us down a very different path. And the next step in the process is to brainstorm the value that your product or service can deliver to the selected target audience for this sales message. And what we're basically doing in this step is we're creating your value proposition. And that might sound intimidating, and in some ways, this is the more difficult step of this brainstorming process. But to simplify this, what we're basically trying to do is we're trying to answer the question for the prospect, what's in it for me? This is really what your prospect cares most about. And when salespeople go out there and they talk about what the product does and how the product works, they're basically explaining the features and functionality of the product that they sell. And that does not answer the question, what's in it for me? It's the improvements that the product and the features create or deliver to the target buyer that answers the question of what's in it for me. And it's the improvements that the product delivers that is the value that you have to offer, and that's your value proposition. So what we want to do to create a very clear and powerful value proposition is identify and outline the key improvements that our product can deliver to the target audience. So our goal here is at the most basic level to brainstorm probably between 3 to 6 improvements that we can deliver. And to also help with this, I have an 8-point checklist that you can go through to get ideas for how your product or service might help your customers. Does your product help to make something work better? Help to make something easier? Help to decrease the time that it takes to do something? Help to increase revenue or income for your customers? Help to decrease their costs or expenses? Help to improve the product that they sell? Help to decrease the risk of something bad happening? Help to improve visibility or access to information? So what you can do is you can look at this list and try to think about improvements that you can deliver. And here's a trick. We can actually bring back all of those features and differentiation that we came up with on the previous step and look at each of those items and take each of those items through this list to think about, does this particular feature help to make something easier, help to decrease time in any way? And when you find a match, you can put a few words around that to describe an improvement that you can deliver. So if we go through this list one at a time, and what I would recommend is to keep in mind the target audience, because depending on the target audience for this sales message, the improvement could be different. And especially going through this list, thinking about sales trainers, that's going to lead us to a completely different set of benefits. For example, the Smart Sales System helps sales trainers to make it easier to teach reps what to say and ask. We help sales trainers to decrease new hire ramp-up time, improve the performance for every rep on the team, and make the training department look great. So that right there is my value proposition. And it's these points that answer the question of what's in it for me for sales trainers when I'm trying to talk to them about the Smart Sales System. Now, I actually want to go back to the topic of selecting that target buyer type because I want to show you how powerful that step is in terms of the direction of your sales message. As discussed, for this sales message, we selected sales trainers. And we came up with these value points and this value proposition. But think about if we went through that same process with a different audience of salespeople. We would end up with a completely different set of benefits, even though the product is exactly the same. Sales trainers care about training other salespeople. Salespeople, they care about selling more, making more money, generating more leads. The key takeaway here is that when you're selling to and communicating with different audiences, if you tailor what you say to the interests and pain points of that audience, not only will it most likely change what you say, but taking that extra step can improve your ability to grab that audience's attention and build interest and generate leads. And the next step in the process is to brainstorm the pain points that your product or service can make go away for the target audience that you're communicating with. And our goal here is to think of between 3 to 6 challenges or concerns or pain points that we can include in our sales message. And you may know right away a few pain points that your product can help with. And if you do, that's great. But I recommend you put those to the side for now, because with this process, what we do is we want to bring back the improvements that we just came up with. And we can use this list of improvements to drive towards an optimum list of pain points that we can make go away. Because for each improvement that your product or service can deliver for the target audience, there is an opposite problem that is usually decreased or resolved. And with that, we can look at each improvement and ask ourselves, what is the opposite of this improvement? Or what problem goes away when we deliver this improvement? Or what problem starts to happen if this improvement is not provided? So going through our improvements one at a time, we can then try to think about what is the opposite. And when you're doing that, I recommend you keep in mind the target audience for this sales message, because that could lead to a different set of pain points. So when we're thinking about sales trainers and looking at these improvements, we can identify that sales trainers often have difficulty teaching reps all the different things they need to say and ask, and that it can take a long time to get reps ramped up and producing. And that in most sales organizations, there's often not enough reps performing well. And in a lot of cases, the training department does not get enough credit for the hard work that they do. And the next step in the process is to think about good questions to ask and include in our sales message. I personally think that the best salesperson is the one that asks the best questions. And you could agree with that 100%, but still not know what questions to ask. Well, the good news is that the sales message brainstorming process will lead you to an optimum set of questions to ask for the product or service that you sell. And it does that by starting with creating pain questions. These are questions that probe to see if the prospect has the pain that you can help make go away. And in order to create an optimum set of pain questions, we bring back the pain points that we created on the previous step. Because for each pain point that we help to solve, there's a question that we could ask to see if the prospect has that pain point or that concern. So we can go through our list of pain points one at a time and ask ourselves, what question could we ask to see if the prospect has that concern or challenge? And as we go through this list one at a time, we still want to keep in mind the target audience for the sales message, because that could impact and influence the questions that we come up with. And so for sales trainers, we came up with these questions. How difficult is it to get your reps to know what to say and ask? How do you feel about the time it takes to get reps ramped up and producing? How much of a priority is it to get reps performing better? How important is it to get more recognition for the training department? In addition to pain questions, we also recommend that you create current state questions. These are questions that help you to identify what the prospect is doing in the area where you have something to offer. So if you sold cars, you should ask current state questions of, do you have a car today? What are you driving? What year is it? How many miles does it have? Do you own it? Do you lease it? How's it running? So the current state questions are unique for each product or service, so I can't really tell you what current state questions to ask for what you sell, but what I have created is a guide that you can work to get ideas for creating your list of current state questions. For example, you probably should ask if they're currently using or have purchased what you sell, who they bought from, any details around current systems or processes, people in the organization, current contracts or expiration dates. There's probably sizing details that you want to ask about, current performance or stats, the last time they looked at purchasing what you sell. And you still want to keep in mind the target audience when thinking about current state questions. And so we came up with these questions. Are you using any type of sales script or playbook? Do you use a sales methodology? Do you provide sales training to your staff? Do you have a new hire onboarding training program? How many reps do you have? Are you doing cold outreach? What's your sales staff turnover? How long does it take to get reps ramped up and performing? When was the last time you looked at improving your sales training? And the last step in the message brainstorming process is to create a very short, concise customer example that we can use in our sales message. And I'm going to give you 4 questions to try to think of someone that you helped. What problem did they have before working with you? What did you sell them to solve that problem? And then try to think of 2 improvements that you helped to create for that customer. And you want to keep in mind the target audience, because what would be ideal is for this sales message if you create a customer example that is similar to the target audience. So if you're creating a sales message for plumbers, it would be great to have a customer example where you sold your product or service to another plumber. So for our sales message, our customer is a sales trainer at a software company. The problem they had was difficulty getting reps to learn the pitch. We solved that with the Smart Sales System. The first improvement was that we made it easier to teach reps what to say. And the second improvement is that we improved performance for every rep on the team. And so that process that we went through created all of these different talking points and sets of bullet points. And each of those sets of bullet points can be used to create what we refer to as building blocks. And then you can use those building blocks to create a lot of different sales scripts and sales tools. You can use those building blocks to create a cold call script, a first appointment script, an email campaign, voicemail messages, objection responses, and a lot more. And that mixing and matching of building blocks is actually how our software application, Sales Scripter, works. And the software actually takes you through that same process that I just showed you, brainstorming your value proposition, pain points, and coming up with good questions to ask. This software will make going through that process easier. And once you have all of your answers and key talking points in the software then turns all those points into building blocks and creates a full library of scripts and emails and voicemails and other documents by mixing and